So our next talk is going to be a panel discussing, well, if you're going to look at the world and how it's changed over the last 20 years, I think you would have a hard time ignoring the incredible innovation that's happened in China. And I certainly can't think of a more dramatic story of transformation, not just industrially, but technologically and design in terms of every aspect of how we design, use, and build technology. And so that's exactly what our next panel is going to be discussing. So excited to hear what they have to say and excited to hear your questions as well. So if you wouldn't mind, please give a warm round of applause to our moderator. You ready? Yifan from Nikkei Asia. And she's going to have our panelists introduce themselves. Oh. I'm going to have you sit right under your photo here. Yeah, there we go. Thanks. And here's our moderator, Yifan. Are you waiting for one more person? Oh, I think he might be in there. Can you check in the green room? I'll check. I'll see if I can track him down real quick. There you go.
Hi, it's Chaoyi.
Hi, good morning and welcome everyone. My name is Yifan. I'm the US tech correspondent for Nikkei Asia based here in San Francisco. And today we are diving into China's robotics surge. What's driving it? Okay, Donny's here, great. What's driving it? How will it impact global humanoids industry and where collaboration still fits in? So let's start with a quick round of super short intros because we don't have a lot of time. Just who you are and what do you do?
Okay, so hi everyone. I'm Chaoyi from Booster. And Booster, we are actually focusing on building humanoids, especially for the developer market, because we believe humanoids would be the next foundation platform for the AI era. And we hope to join together on the journey with everyone to push forward the whole step of humanoids.
I'm Jeff Burnstein, the president of the Association for Advancing Automation. We're a trade group with 1,400 plus company members all around the world, and many of those are active in the robotics space, artificial intelligence, motion control, machine vision, and we have several humanoid robot companies now as well.
Hi folks, my name is Kimate Richards. I'm part of Amazon Web Services. I also have a startup focused on embodied AI, and just happy to be here for the second year.
Hello everyone, I'm Donny Lee from Realman Robotics. Our mission is to bring workable robots into every industry, every household. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Great. As you can see, we have a fantastic lineup of speakers here from a diverse industry and global market perspectives. And this is one of the most important and impactful subjects to discuss. But I can't believe they only gave us like 30 minutes to do this. So let's jump right in. So to start, maybe a quick reality check. Where exactly does China stand in robotics development? And compared to the US, would you say it's ahead, behind, or just simply playing a different game? Who would like to take this?
Well, I'm happy to address that. In terms of the number of humanoid companies, in terms of the number of robots that are out in the field, China certainly seems to be ahead. And the US is in a catch-up position. But it's still so early on that we don't have as much insight into what the US companies are doing. The Chinese government is supporting the humanoid industry with a lot of support in many ways. The US government isn't doing that yet, and I think that's helping give China a lead right now.
So those on the ground, oh, go ahead.
You go first.
I've spent a lot of time in China recently and in previous parts of my life. What I noticed about China is the excitement about humanoid robotics is very, very public. Jeff, you and I were at the World Robot Conference, and there were thousands of people, children, very, very interested in robotics. And the whole country seems to have embraced it in a way that we haven't. I don't think there's a comparison between the US and China. I think there are different things going on in both places.
So Chaoyi.
Yep, so I actually see this kind of different way. So China is definitely doing a great job in hardware. So we actually see a lot of like Chinese humanoid companies emerging over the past 2 years. And many of them are building hardware that is functioning really well. And this is also, the hardware that are manufactured by China is actually used all around the world. But if we look at models, if we look at foundation models for robotics, it's still like the US is doing a lot more jobs in this area. I don't see many humanoid foundation models in China yet. So I think currently, definitely, it's a different role. China is leveraging the supply chain that it has, and US is definitely leveraging more on the model on AI that is currently here already.
Great point. Donny, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I agree with Chaoyi. When we look at robotics world today, we see two amazing things happening at the same time. First, China is building a huge advantage in manufacturing. We are very fast building supply chain, creating massive production capacity. We can deliver millions of robots, not a few. Second, American fellows are pushing innovation in brain of the robot, like software development, AI models, and core intelligence. But please remember this: for the whole industry is still in the very early stages. So our common goal is simply to deploy millions of robots in the real world, right? So from my point of view, no single company, no single country can do this alone. So I think it's not the right time to compare the two countries' development. Collaboration is more important, far more important than competition right now, if we want to achieve the goal together.
Right, like Donny said, we have a common goal here to advance the industry, but the reality is humanoid is an industry that combines both artificial intelligence and robotics. Both subjects has been involved increasingly in national security and geopolitical talks. So realistically, where do you see the US and China can collaborate?
Well, we actually already see a lot of collaborations. For example, a lot of US tech companies are using Chinese brand robots, right? A lot of universities here in the US are using Chinese brand robots. If we look back at the whole, for example, the industry of personal computers, it's actually the same. So China is actually using a lot of US products. So we use Apple computers, we use Microsoft operating system. Whereas in the US, there's also a lot of Chinese applications that are already in the market. For example, I bet there's a lot of TikTok users here. So definitely there's more, I think regarding academia research, regarding application, regarding daily life itself, there's more collaboration going on already. So that isn't really the problem, I think, that we are actually facing. It's definitely more collaboration, as Donny mentioned, regarding the whole industry.
I'd definitely like to see more collaboration on issues like robot safety. I think this is one of the barriers to adoption for humanoids. There are no safety standards, and we need to get them quickly, especially if we're going to see more robots in the home in the future. So, but as we are talking right now, we are still at the beginning stage of this industry. As companies scale to the shipment volume of tens of thousands, and with all these emerging tech export and investment restrictions here, do you still see a path for US companies to compete in China, or the other way around?
I think I'll take a little bit of this because I've toured a lot of manufacturing facilities in China. I think we need China. There's no question, especially when tariffs happened here in the US and we saw prices 5x for motors. I could walk around China and get the parts that I need and put them in a shopping cart and walk away and build a robot. That's not something you can do in the US. So I just want to make that point, is that manufacturing in China, in my estimation, far surpasses what we have in the US.
So, but there's a perception that Chinese robotics company only compete on price and cost. I don't know how many of you saw that Expo presentation just before this panel. Clearly, something else is going on in China as well. So, what are some of the most underappreciated advantages China has? Or on the flip side, what are some of the structural challenges they face?
I mean, it's a long been known question, right? So for many products made in China, I agree with that. The only advantage is the cost, is the price. However, I would not fully agree about this topic, like Chinese robotics industry is competing only at price. As you might know, the raw materials price, the labor cost in China is increasing crazily, as same as the US, even faster, right? So as you know, in this industry, many companies from US, from Europe, from other foreign countries, they go to China every year to look for products. Do they purchase China products only on low price? Are they able to easily find alternatives on domestic market? I believe a lot of people would not answer yes for these two questions. To summarize my opinion, I would quote one of my US customers saying, "We want the products better, cheaper, and faster." Thank you.
I'll say something a little bit different in that when I was in China, I got to go to some centers for innovation, and Jeff and I were just talking about this earlier. I was in Wuhan, and they have an entire town built around human robotics startups. And it's free for the first 2 years, free rent in a high-rise, beautiful corporate office, plus free rent for employees that they'll be working in that office for 2 years. And as a startup founder, the one thing that we wrestle with the most is getting funding here in the US. If I had 2 years to just kind of incubate and work on my designs, what could I produce? So if we're talking about comparisons, I would say one thing that's really important to think about is that this is all very new. It's all very new for everybody. So if in China they're working on ensuring that the companies get the best start, maybe they might be ahead in a few years because they are allowing their people to work. But here in the U.S., we're still doing things. It's just not the way that they do it.
Well, I've been to those types of facilities, as Kimate said, and look, that's an advantage that the government provides, as are the incentives for adoption that the Chinese government provides. So humanoid robots, more of them are out in the field getting data, allowing the companies to come up with their next iteration of their humanoid. So that's an advantage that certainly US companies don't have.
Yep, I think at the end of the day, it's regarding how the product actually serves everyone. So it's about the taste, how the product is, how the quality is. As of today, to be honest, I think price-wise is still very important because the humanoids that we are actually using are not that affordable. So by building something that is affordable, that can actually have developers working on it, would be one of the most important topics. I know, like China, like they're just not like it's not just about like making more affordable price. They also like work on a lot of advantages. For example, they have good supply chain, which will iterate faster for a lot of the products. They have a lot of use cases over there, which also gives them places to test the robots a lot. But as you mentioned, is it like price? The main thing that the advantage is, I think we shouldn't like say, okay, price is this is something that is like a downside. I think like all the companies now, they should focus on like bringing down the price. They should focus on bringing down the price so that every software developer could actually have their own humanoid and work on it. And then that's the only way I think we can actually bring humanoid faster into our daily lives.
Right. I was talking to someone from China on the exhibit floor yesterday, and they told me they can make a humanoid about the same price as making an iPhone 17. Isn't that amazing? But like Chinese robotics industry doesn't grow to this size overnight, right? There has to be some driving forces to make it to this scale and this speed and this cost today. So what do you think are their driving forces? Is it policy? Is it like talent? Or is it just Chinese market's unique size and demand?
Well, I certainly think policy plays a key role. I mean, so I've been in this business for 4 decades. The United States government has never been a strong supporter of robotics. They're taking a hard look at it right now. And part of what we tell the government is, look at what China has done. They had national strategies to establish leadership in robotics. In the industrial robot world, they've done that. They have adopting right now 9 or 10 times as many industrial robots a year as the US. They want to do similar things in the humanoid space. I believe that they believe that it's the next frontier of robotics. They have policies to support it, plans that they're following, and the US certainly doesn't have that yet.
Let's make one point. I was at IROS this year, which was in Hangzhou, China, and more than half the papers that were submitted and accepted were from China. So we have to look at that and be realistic that the whole world is coming together on this robotics thing, and there's not any one group that can do it by themselves. I was pretty impressed, and I didn't realize that most of the papers that I read here from the US are by Chinese Americans. So it's a global initiative that we have to work on together.
So a lot of what you guys mentioned, like national policy and the strong supply chain, those sounds very familiar to how Chinese EV industry grew to this size and this impactful today, right? Do you see the Chinese humanoids industry can also repeat the success its EV industry does?
Well, I think it's a totally different story. So EV is like more working on a specific product. So this specific product runs on the road. It can actually be finished by simply by sometimes by one company, and that's a supply chain that runs behind it. But I think humanoid is more of a general product. So it's more regarding in collaboration. There should I don't think there should be one company, one country that can actually bring humanoids to our daily lives. That's simply not possible. So I don't think it will run the same pattern that EV has done. I still if we really think about this, I still think it will have the similar pattern how computers have been introduced to our lives. So with the collaboration of different companies, different countries, bringing them from research labs to education, then eventually to the offices, then eventually to our home scenarios. I think that's the way we see it.
One small thing, I love cars, and going to China, I got to sit in everyone's car and go for a drive. I like the diversity of product, and it actually makes all the final results of whatever products will exist so much better. Sitting in a BYD vehicle, I was amazed by how I can get the cost so low to do essentially what a Porsche can do. So I think the breadth of the humanoid market in China is going to cause us all to be better, and we don't really have a lot of horizontal depth. Here in America, there's 4 or 5 companies that are doing well. In China, there's 140.
Yeah, I think I agree with Chaoyi. It's a different story. Maybe someday, if we reach the stage that we can deploy millions of robots into the real world, then we may have that advantage on the massive production capacity, as same as EV industry. However, at this early stage, right? So it's more complex. Is slower deployment in humanoid robotics. So a lot of industries application is still in the exploring stage. We don't know how to implement the project yet. So in that sense, I think it's hard to say we're going to repeat the success of EV industry in the world right now.
So I'm gonna ask the hard question. When will we hit that millions shipment volume? When's that gonna be?
From my personal point of view, I think that time would be like at least 10 years after L4 self-driving implemented in a wide range. At least
Not
8,
10 years from now,
10
years after we have robotaxi and autonomous cars on the road.
Yeah, L4 self-driving model applied in a wide range. Then after that, we may need a decade to build up the core intelligence of the robot. Then after that, we may have the chance to deploy millions of robots working for us every day.
So Jeff, do you think the US gonna hit that million mark earlier than China?
Well, it's not clear to me yet. I mean, it's so early in the development of humanoid robots. Customers tell us they want a product that can solve their problems. Specific task robots right now can solve a lot of problems. Will there be a humanoid that can do something better than the robots that are out there? That's what's going to determine, I believe, whether we're going to reach millions of shipments of humanoids. So we've still got a ways to go.
Right. So we are not building the humanoids just for fun, right? We are building it for some use cases. What are some of the very unique use cases you see in US and China?
I'll take that. I talk to a lot of companies through my work in AWS that want humanoids for the sake of having humanoids. And when you get down to the brass tacks of what they really want, they want to show that they're innovating like the rest of the world. I think one thing that Elon Musk did for us is inspired us all to go reach for humanoids to be very, very useful. But when we talk to healthcare companies and we talk to automotive companies, do they really need it today? And even in our Amazon facilities, do we really need a robot right now that is all purpose? And the answer is maybe in the future, maybe not, right? They're right now more difficult to integrate with humans, and I think there's so much more work to be done in safety and privacy and security before we get to the point of like a massive deployment of 1 million robots.
Chaoyi, do you see any use cases in China that's particularly interesting?
I see the different. I see this. I actually see it as similar. It's similar that we kind of need the same thing that actually helps us with our daily lives, no matter where we live, in China, in Europe, in the US. So I think it would be similar. The only question is how are we going to get there? How are we going to get there regarding building like better hardware? Are we going to get there regarding making some application that actually works? If it actually works, then definitely I think there will be more robots deployed without any question.
It has to work, but it also has to be affordable.
Yes, for
like
sure.
you said earlier. So we're talking about the home as a possible environment to reach those big numbers. So safety, obviously, a key issue there. But think about our homes. The robots have been around since 1961. We've only had one successful home robot product, and that's a vacuum cleaner. So now we're talking about potentially bringing robots into our home and walk. There's children, there's grandparents. Who's going to operate it if it fails? What's it going to do at an affordable price? It can do all these things. I thought the presentation this morning was great. But the question is, can it do you need it to do all those things? Maybe there's a cooking robot if you want something to cook, or maybe there's something that can clean. But do you need a general purpose robot that's going to cost $20,000? That I don't know.
Right. It's quite refreshing to hear someone in the humanoids industry to say that, because everybody say you all need a humanoids. Donny?
Go ahead.
So in terms of this question, I think there are different views. In China, I believe we are trying in a lot of verticals, like hospitality, like agriculture, like manufacturing, and so on. On the other hand, in the U.S., some bots are deeply, involved in our lives. For instance, I have been using Alexa for over 5 years, and it helps a lot. So yeah, I think it's different view, but at the end of the day, like some others said, we need to cooperate together to get those robots can work in the real world to perform real tasks. It's hard. It's really hard.
Jeff mentioned this earlier. The U.S. is in the industrialization revival stage. We are trying to bring manufacturing back. Do you think Chinese robotics company can actually help with that?
Potentially. But look, with the relationship right now between the U.S. and China, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen in terms of access to the market for Chinese companies going forward. So we have to see. There's a lot of movement around bringing manufacturing back. Obviously, that's going to take robotics and automation to be successful. But will it be Chinese robots? Obviously, the U.S. government would like to see more American-made robots. So I think it's there are Chinese robots doing work in the United States right now successfully, but we'll see where this government policy takes us.
Oh, we have two companies on stage that's doing great here, so case in point. What are some of the things you surprise your American clients when you work here in the US?
From my point of view, it's actually like really something that I think is not too surprised, to be honest. I see things that are more in common around the world, to be honest. I see things that what people like in common. For example, we started like selling robots to, at the very beginning was to research labs. All the research labs want one thing, a robot that doesn't break. A robot that actually works when they are doing sim to real. So that is something that at the very beginning we see. So I think on the journey forward it will be similar. So when we start, for example, saying that robots go to education scenarios, I think it's still the same. For our education, we want something that is easy to use, that teachers can actually deploy really quickly. We want something that's super safe, that we don't have to worry about like students using it. So I still see the things that are more in common. Although I understand that in the future there will definitely be a lot of different applications around the world, which is totally different. But that is expertise which lies in the developers. So that's why we think the ecosystem will be super important when it comes to deployment of the robots.
Donny, do you have anything to add about what you surprise your clients here in the US?
Yeah, I have the same feeling with Chaoyi. We don't encounter a lot of surprises here because, as I mentioned earlier, it's a little bit different. In China, we have a lot of customers from all kinds of different verticals, but here it's kind of like step by step. For instance, a lot of people, they're exploring how to deploy the robots into the factory, onto the production line. However, it's really hard to get those buzzwords. And the other vertical here in the US I see is that a lot of robots working in the warehouse and the logistic industry make some successful cases already, but not that diversified as China. Yeah, for instance, in China, I would not say a lot of hotels, they have a lot of bots, right? Going to the elevator, deliver stuff to the clients, and a lot of bots in the restaurant to handle the dishes, everything. But here in the US, we don't see that much yet.
So I was on the Great Wall in China, and I was climbing the Great Wall. It's 90 degrees outside, and I ordered a Starbucks latte. At the top of the Great Wall, a drone came down and brought my Starbucks latte. You know, I don't really have another comment to say about that, but just that was amazing to me, and that happens all around China, and it's kind of commonplace in Japan as well if you get to travel in Korea as well. I think there's an embracing of the current technology and not this like waiting period for that holy grail humanoid as we might be waiting for here.
I hope next year we can end this panel with robots delivering our latte to the stage. That's my goal. So let's wrap up with a look forward, all right? Like, what's your prediction for how Chinese robotics industry gonna evolve and how will it impact the world? Let's start with Chaoyi.
Okay, so I think like regarding, I probably will speak on behalf of like what we see as a hardware company or as a like humanoid company. So I think at the end, like eventually we kind of want to reach one goal. So the goal is to really build something simple, affordable, and like useful. Just like how we like use computers now. I see like everyone has basically has a computer in front of them, right? So I think like by moving forward to this is that like we are trying to bring down the the cost. We're trying to make more durable products. We're trying to make the ecosystem more open so that people can actually do different things on it. And I think that's kind of the what is leading us towards our goal. And that's, I think, we will kind of like move one step by one step towards that kind of goal.
One thing I heard when I was in China in August in talking to government officials was they recognize with their aging population that elder care is an important application. And they're certainly hopeful that humanoids can play a role in providing the care that oftentimes people aren't available to do, taking care of the elderly population. So that might be a major contribution to the world.
So I think also the just generalized labor force in China, the people are not finding laborious jobs, technician jobs as attractive as they once used to be. And I think what robotics can do is bring that talent back into provinces. Same thing here in America. People are kind of moving toward the coast and becoming more involved in office jobs, where we do need to bring back a kind of technician class of people to work on these robots. The robots aren't going to fix themselves, at least not yet. So I think that's an area where we can see growth both in China here and the US.
Yeah, I think Chinese robotics industry is not playing the game alone. So we need to collaborate with the whole world to move the industry forward. Like we are the first pitcher, but there are some others behind. So in order to deploy the robots into the real world, I think we played a crucial role for now to try in a lot of verticals, but still in the early stage, I think, So a good future in front of us, I believe that.
Great closing thought. Do we still have time for maybe one or two audience questions? Questions anyway? Oh, right there.
We don't have a lot of microphones, so we'll have to limit it to
Shout
one.
your question, we can hear you.
You share one? Okay, yeah.
Right there, you can shout it.
Here you are.
Thank you. I have a question about open source and closed source software. So right now, I have the impression that China is mostly betting on open source, whereas the Western world is more focusing on closed source. Do you think that one or the other is an advantage or disadvantage for either one?
Pardon me.
I think eventually the ecosystem should be open for sure. Like all the APIs, all the ways that people work should be open, but it doesn't really have to be open source. So my point of view of this is that if we look at all kind of softwares that we use now, it's not exactly open source, but they are open for development. They're open for more collaborations in this area. The reason of this is normally when we do something open source, the product doesn't seem to be that good. Right? When we actually see open source, it's something that probably published, and in that case, normally companies are hard to really monetize, to make a commercial this product. But in order to improve products, normally they have to be done as a product and evolve later. So I don't think closed source is an issue when we talk about companies, for example, in the West, they want to do things closed source. But I think still making it open itself is important. So making it open for collaboration in this area will be super important, but it doesn't have to be open source.
I'll say something. So to compete with companies like Tesla that have a complete ecosystem, I think we do need open source. There's no way that any singular company is going to do this on their own. Not to say we're all competing with Tesla, but I do want to see a diversity of product, and the only way to have that is if we help each other. I'll say NVIDIA is a strong believer in that. And so at Amazon, we use a lot of their software, we use a lot of their hardware, and we don't believe that we're going to scale robotics by ourselves.
Unfortunately, we are at time, so please corner our panelists. If you have more questions, they will be here. Please join me to thank them so much.
Thank you. here?
I've got your